Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to take our Chapter 2 assessment or test. All of your teachers want to see how smart you are and how hard you've been working. I want you to take a deep breath before you take the test. And I want you to know that all we're worried about is that you try your absolute best. If you're feeling overwhelmed or you're getting confused, feel free to take a break, walk away, and come back to it. Mom and Dad, it's okay to break this assessment into smaller pieces so that your kids are able to easily understand. And even though I'm going to read the directions to you, if you would like to read the directions to your child or you need to reread the directions, that is perfectly fine. Again, just like in the first assessment, we ask that you do not give any help in finding the answers. It's okay if they get anything wrong. That helps us as teachers know, in particular, what items that we need to reteach or need to work on with your child. So again, getting a perfect score or a 100 is not a necessity. We just want to see where they're at and how we're doing. All right? So boys and girls, let's go ahead and get started. This test, again, is one of those that's really important for mom or dad to double check and make sure you're completing all of the directions. So we're going to start on page 111 with number 1. Do you see how many puppets there are? I'd like you to count the puppets and write the number at the end. Then I want you to draw a counter below each of the puppets. Draw a counter below each of the puppets and tell me how many counters you drew. Write that number there. Number 2, I want you to count how many yellow counters there are and write that number there. Last, I'd like you to count how many red counters there are and write that number there. Now, I'd like you to compare those two numbers that you just wrote. And I want you to circle the number that is greater. So of the two numbers you write here, circle the number that is greater. All right? Double check. Make sure you've got everything you need. And let's go on to the next page, page 112. Number 3 has some cars here. Mark under all of the sets. See these dots underneath here? You're going to fill in the bubble under any of the sets that have the same number of counters as there are cars. So how many cars are there? Find the sets that have the same number as this and fill in the bubble underneath. You could have more than one answer. Number 4, mark under all the sets that have a number of counters greater than the number of turtles. So you'll count how many turtles there are and mark under the sets that have an amount greater than the number of turtles. Number 5, there are some vans here. I want you to count how many vans there are, then look over here, and I want you to mark underneath all of the sets that have a number of counters less than the number of vans. So mark under any of the sets that have a number of counters less than the number of vans. And finally, number 6. There are some counters. I want you to fill in the bubble under all the numbers that are less than 3. Fill in the bubble if the number is less than 3. And you could have more than one answer. Okay? Make sure you answered for 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And let's move on to the next page. Remember, at any time, if I'm going too fast, you can take your time and stop or pause the video. Okay, number 7. Maria has these apples. I want you to count them and write how many apples Maria has. Then I want you to draw a set of oranges below the apples that has the same number. Compare those sets by matching them and write how many pieces of fruit are in each set. So count the apples and write the number. Draw an orange underneath each apple. Match them up. Matching means drawing 1 to 1. And then write that number there as well. And you're welcome to color them if you want to. Number 8. This is one of those where I'd like you to draw a line down through the middle. Remember where we divide it kind of in French fries there? Go ahead and do that, where we have a top and a bottom. Amy has 2 crayons. I want you to draw Amy's crayons in the top here. Then I want you to write that number there. Okay, so Amy has 2 crayons. Draw her 2 crayons and write that number there. Down below the line, Brad has 1 more crayon than Amy. How many crayons does Brad have? If Brad has 1 more than Amy did, you're going to draw how many crayons Brad has and write that number there. Okay? Mom or Dad or someone at home might need to reread that one to you so you can really think about that. All right. And last but not least, we're going to turn to the final page. And this top one gets a little bit tricky. We're going to do something called matching. So Mom or Dad, you might have to explain to them how when you match, how we draw lines, okay? So first what I want you to do is compare the number of red counters in each set to the number of blue counters, okay? So how many blue counters are there? Well, you're going to count how many here, and you're going to decide if this many counters is the same as blue, if it's greater than blue, or if it's less than blue. So if you said it is the same, you would draw a line from here to here. If you said that this is greater than those, you would draw a line from here to here. Or if you said this is less than here, you would draw down to less. Now you're only going to match 1 to each side. So in other words, one of these sets is the same, one of these sets is greater, and one of these sets is less than. So there's only going to be 1 line to each side, okay? And finally, number 10, I want you, we're going to divide again, draw a line right down the middle, divide it into 2 French fries here. I would like you to draw 4 counters on the top. Draw 4 counters and write that number there. Next, I want you to draw a set that has a greater number of counters than this number. So you drew 4 and you write that number there. Now I want you to draw a set that has a greater amount than 4 and write the number. So you will draw and write the number there for how many more it has. Now there's one more part to this test. You're going to use green to color the set with a greater number of colors and use blue to color the set with a number of counters that is less than the green set. So in other words, the bigger number, those counters will be green, And the number that is less will be blue. So whichever number is bigger, those counters will be green, and the smaller set will be blue. And Mom or Dad, feel free to go ahead and read these directions. Sometimes half of our battle is understanding the directions. So if you can take the time to explain and read and reread, that's probably going to help make your child more successful. I hope you have a wonderful day. Great job. Hope you did your best. We'll see you tomorrow.